It's 2 a.m. and you're still scrolling. You told yourself you'd sleep hours ago, but your thumb keeps moving on its own, and that blue light's on your face in the dark, and you don't even know what you're looking for anymore. Look, I'm not going to sell you some app or some system tonight. Here's what I'm going to do. By the time this is over, you're going to understand exactly why you can't put it down. Not you're weak, not you're lazy, the real reason. And you're going to know how to walk away from it without hating yourself. There's a guy named Marcus, 29, orange apron, Columbus, Ohio. Checks one thing 40 times a day, and the night everything changed for him, he was lying exactly where you are right now. So listen to me, friend. Put the phone down. Pick your life up. Let's go. Chapter 1. The Blue Light at 2 a.m. The alarm hadn't gone off yet. It was 2:14 in the morning, and Marcus knew that because the numbers were glowing 3 inches from his face. He was lying on his side in a bed that was too warm on one edge and cold everywhere else. 1-bedroom apartment off Sullivan Avenue, the kind of place where you can hear your neighbor's TV through the wall and the radiator ticks like something alive. The fridge in the next room was humming that low hum it always made, the one you stop noticing until it's 2 a.m. and it's the only sound in the world besides your own breathing. And his thumb moving up, up, up. He wasn't even reading anything anymore. That's the part he'd tell you if he was honest. He'd already seen it all, the same 12 people posting the same 12 things. A guy from high school at a rooftop bar in Nashville, somebody's baby, somebody's new truck. A meme he'd already seen twice today, but his thumb kept going anyway, dragging the screen up, up, chasing something that was never gonna be there. Here's what you got to understand about Marcus. He wasn't a mess. That's the thing. From the outside, he was fine. Showed up to work, paid his rent, barely, always the day before the late fee hit. But he paid it. $17 an hour on the sales floor at the hardware store. Orange apron, name tag. 8 hours a day standing on concrete telling people which aisle the drywall screws were in. He was a normal guy. That's what made it worse. Because normal guys aren't supposed to feel like this. And what he felt, lying there at 2:14 in the morning, was this. Like his whole life was happening somewhere on the other side of that glass. Like everybody else got the instructions and he got a phone instead. Let me tell you what he did next, because you've done it too. He flipped the phone face down on the mattress, real firm, like, that's it, done, going to sleep. He lasted maybe 90 seconds, flipped it back over, blue light on his face again, and this time, this is the part, this time he wasn't even scrolling the feed. He went to her story, Sarah's, his ex. Went to see that little grey ring around her profile picture to check if there was something new, and there wasn't, and he'd known there wouldn't be, and he checked anyway. You know that feeling? When you go looking for something on that phone, and some quiet part of you already knows it's not there, and you look anyway. Because the looking is the thing. The looking is what your hand does when it doesn't know what else to do. That was Marcus, every single night. Now here's the moment I actually want to tell you about, because everything in this whole book turns on this 1 second. He set the phone down, for real this time, or so he thought, and he caught his own reflection, just for a second. The screen went dark and the glass turned into a black mirror, the way it does, and he saw himself in it. And it stopped him cold. Because the guy looking back at him didn't look tired in a normal way. He didn't look like a guy who worked hard and needed sleep. He looked hollow. He looked like a man watching his own house burn down through a window and not moving, just watching. Thumb moving, not moving anything that mattered. And this thought came to him, not loud, not dramatic, just quiet and true, the way the truest things always come. How many nights have I done this? And he tried to do the math, and he couldn't. Because it wasn't nights, was it? It was years. It was 1,000 nights just like this one, gone, spent staring at a rectangle, and he had nothing to show for a single one of them. Not one memory, not one thing he'd built, not one person he'd gotten closer to. Just a thumb, worn smooth from scrolling, and a girl who already left, and a story with no new posts in it. Look, I'll be honest with you, Marcus didn't change that night. This isn't that kind of story where a guy sees his reflection and fixes his whole life by sunrise. He put the phone down, he lay there, and 20 minutes later he picked it right back up, because that's what real people do. Seeing the truth and doing something about it are two different rooms, and there's a long hallway between them. But something got planted that night. A little splinter of, I can't keep doing this. And once that splinter's in there, you can ignore it, you can scroll over it, you can numb it, but you can't ever fully get it back out. I think you've got that splinter too. I think that's actually why you're here right now, this late, listening to this. Some part of you caught your own reflection in that black glass and didn't like the guy looking back either. So real talk. Let's not pretend that one night of listening is gonna fix everything. It won't. Marcus is proof it won't. But here's what I want you to do this week. It's small. It's stupid small. That's on purpose, because a tired person can't do the big thing. And anybody who tells you to overhaul your whole life tonight has never actually been tired the way you're tired. Here it is. Just this. One night this week, when you catch yourself at 2 a.m. with the phone on your face, I want you to set it down and look at your own reflection in the dark screen. That's it. Don't fix anything. Don't delete anything. Just look. Look at the guy or the girl in the glass for 10 seconds and ask the same thing Marcus asked. How many nights? Because you can't change a thing you won't look at. And most people go their whole lives never once looking. They just keep scrolling right over their own reflection. You're gonna look. That's the whole assignment. Just look. Marcus looked, and he thought that splinter was the worst thing that ever happened to him. He had no idea it was the beginning of getting his life back. But before he could pick his life up, he had to understand the lie he told himself every single night, the one you told yourself tonight. 5 little words. Just 5 more minutes. Chapter 2. Just 5 more minutes. Marcus made a deal with himself the next night, and it was a good deal, a reasonable deal, the kind of deal you've made 100 times. He got home from a closing shift a little after 10, feet aching from the concrete, that specific ache that lives in your heels when you've stood on a hard floor for 8 hours. He microwaved some leftover DoorDash from 2 nights back, the kind of thing you swear you'll stop wasting money on and never do. Ate it standing up at the counter, and he told himself, tonight's different. Tonight I'm in bed by 11, lights out, phone on the charger across the room. He meant it too. That's what kills me about it. He genuinely meant it. 11 o'clock came. He was in bed, phone in his hand, and he said the thing, out loud almost. Just 5 more minutes. Now here's what I need you to really hear tonight, because this is the lie underneath all the other lies. When Marcus said 5 more minutes, he wasn't lying about the scrolling. He was lying about what 5 minutes is. Because 5 minutes on that phone is never 5 minutes. You know this. You've lived this. You pick it up to check one thing, one text, one notification, and you look up and the clock's jumped 40 minutes and you have absolutely no memory of where they went. No memory. Like somebody reached into your skull and just deleted the tape. Where'd they go, those 40 minutes? I'll tell you where. They went into a machine that eats time and gives you nothing back. Not rest. Rest would be something. If scrolling actually rested you, I'd say scroll all night, God bless. But you don't get up from it feeling better. You get up feeling worse, wired and empty at the same time, which is a special kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. Marcus's 5 minutes turned into an hour and 40 every night. Do the math on that and don't flinch when you see it. An hour and 40 minutes a night. That's about 12 hours a week. That's basically an entire extra shift, a whole workday, every single week poured into that glass. 50 weeks a year, that's 600 hours. 600 hours gone. You know what a person can do with 600 hours? Learn a trade. Learn to play guitar well enough to sit around a fire and have people actually stop talking to listen. Get in shape, real shape, not New Year's shape. Read 50 books. Build a side thing that pulls in an extra few $100 a month. The kind of money that means you're not sweating the day rent's due. 600 hours is a different life. Not a fantasy life, a regular, better, realer life, sitting right there, and Marcus was feeding it into a feed 5 minutes at a time. But here's the part that's easy to miss, and I want to slow down here. The problem was never really the time. Time was just the receipt. The real problem was what the 5 more minutes was doing to him underneath. Because every night he told himself he'd stop, and every night he didn't, he was teaching himself one lesson over and over. And the lesson was, my word to myself means nothing. Think about that. Sit in it for a second. Marcus made himself a promise every single night. I'll put it down, and broke it every single night. What do you think that does to a man? What do you think that does to you? You stop trusting yourself. That's what. It's quiet, it's slow, but it's brutal. Because if you can't keep a promise this small, just put the phone down. That's it. That's the whole promise. Then somewhere deep down you stop believing you can keep the big ones either. Lose the weight. Leave the dead-end job. Call the guy you owe money. Ask her out. Change. Every broken 5 minutes promise was Marcus quietly voting against himself. Every night. A little election where he lost. And here's the open question I want you sitting with till the end of this chapter, because Marcus sat with it too. If you can't win the smallest fight, the one that's literally in your own hand, how are you ever going to win the big ones? Hold that. We're coming back to it. Now, there was a night that cracked it open for him a little. Marcus was doing the 5 more minutes thing, lying in the dark, blue light on his face, fridge humming in the next room. And his phone did the thing where it shows you your screen time report. That little weekly summary that pops up like a slap. Your screen time was up 14% this week. Daily average, 6 hours, 22 minutes. 6 hours and 22 minutes a day. He actually said no out loud in the dark, like the number was wrong, like it was accusing him of something he didn't do. But it wasn't wrong. It never is. The phone's the one thing in your life that keeps perfect, honest records of exactly how you spend your one and only life, and it does not care about your feelings when it hands you the bill. 6 hours and 22 minutes. More than a quarter of every day he was awake. More time than he spent with any human being. more time than he spent eating, driving, showering, and talking to his own mother combined. He was in a relationship, it just wasn't with a person. So he did what you do. He felt terrible for about a minute, and then he picked the phone back up to feel better about feeling terrible. You've done that too. Don't lie to me. The thing that's hurting you is the same thing you reach for to stop the hurt. That's not weakness, by the way. We'll get to why that is. That's design. But we're not there yet. All right, here's your assignment this week. And like last time, it's small on purpose. I'm not going to tell you to delete anything tonight. I'm not going to tell you to go cold turkey. You're too tired for a war right now, and a war you lose just teaches you you're a loser, and you've had enough of those lessons. Here's all I want. One time this week before you start scrolling, say the 5 more minutes out loud, but actually set a timer for 5 minutes, a real one. And when it goes off, notice what your body does. Notice the little pull to keep going, the little, no wait, just, don't even fight it, just feel it. Feel the hook go into your lip, because you can't fight an enemy you can't feel. Right now that pull is invisible to you, it just moves your hand and you don't even notice. The timer makes it visible. That's the whole job this week. Make it visible. And that question I told you to hold on to. If you can't win the small fight, how do you win the big ones? Here's the answer Marcus found, and I want you to have it before you sleep. You don't win the big ones, you win this one, the one in your hand, tonight. And you find out you can. And that little win, that's the first vote you cast for yourself instead of against. Put the phone down, pick your life up. It starts with 5 real minutes. Now, Marcus had a bigger problem than time, because when he finally looked up from that phone and out at his own life, everybody in that little glass rectangle was winning. And he was the only one losing. Or so it looked. Chapter 3. Everybody's winning but you. It was a Tuesday, and Marcus was on his 15-minute break in the back of the store, sitting on an upturned bucket by the loading dock. Cold coffee from the break room in one hand, the machine kind, the kind that tastes like the paper cup it's in, phone in the other. And in the space of about 4 minutes, here's what the world showed him. A guy he graduated with just bought a house. There was the photo, dude standing in front of it holding one of those giant novelty keys, wife next to him, little "We did it" caption. Then a girl he used to have a thing with in his early 20s, on a beach somewhere with water so blue it didn't look real, captioned, "So blessed." Then somebody's promotion, then somebody's engagement, the ring held up to the camera with the fingers turned just so. Then a guy his age flexing a new truck, a big diesel thing, 60, 70 grand easy. And Marcus sat there on his bucket, orange apron, $17 an hour, cold coffee, concrete floor, 15 minutes till he had to go back and tell somebody where the drywall screws were. And you know exactly how he felt, because you've sat on that same bucket. Maybe not a literal bucket, maybe it's your couch, or your car in the parking lot before a shift, or your bed at 2 a.m. But you've sat there and watched the whole world lap you. Everybody's winning but me. Here's the thing I need you to understand tonight, and I need you to really get it, because this one's stealing more from you than the time is. None of what he saw was the truth, not the whole truth, not even close. Let me tell you what Marcus didn't see. He didn't see that the guy with the house is $340,000 in debt and lies awake sicker about money than Marcus ever has, because now there's this giant thing he can lose. He didn't see that the so-blessed beach girl put that photo up from a trip she went into a credit card hole to afford and cried in the airport bathroom on the way home. He didn't see that the engagement ring's still got 3 years of payments on it. He didn't see that the guy with the 70 grand truck is one missed check away from it getting repoed out of his driveway in the middle of the night. And he knows it. And that's why he posts it. Because posting it is the only time it feels like it's really his. You are not comparing your life to their lives. You're comparing your life to their highlight reel, their trailer, the 2-second clip they picked out of a whole messy day, filtered, cropped, captioned, and posted at the exact moment they needed a stranger to hit a little heart so they'd feel okay about themselves for a minute. You're comparing your behind the scenes to everybody else's movie poster, and you will lose that comparison every single time. Every time. It's rigged. It was built to be rigged. Nobody posts the repo notice. Nobody posts the fight in the parking lot, the panic about the electric bill, the Sunday afternoon they spent staring at the wall, wondering if this is all there is. They post the key. They post the beach. They post the ring. Now here's the open loop I want you sitting with, because it hit Marcus hard that Tuesday, and he couldn't shake it for the rest of his shift. He realized something ugly about himself. He realized that when he saw the guy with the house, some part of him, some quiet, rotten part, didn't just feel behind. It felt worse when it turned out the guy was doing fine. And when he heard later that somebody's business had gone under, some part of him felt relief, a little lift. And that scared him, because what kind of man feels better when other people fail? Hold on to that. We're coming back to what that actually means. It's not what he thought. So let's talk about you. You're doing this too. Real talk, you probably did it tonight, before you even got here. You opened that app, and you took a hit of everybody's best moment, and you measured your worst moment against it, and you came up short, and you felt that little sink in your chest, and you called it just checking. And here's what it's costing you. It's not just that it makes you feel bad, it's that it makes you feel bad about a life that's actually fine. Because Marcus's life, on paper, standing on that dock, it was okay. He had a job, he had a roof, he had his health, his own teeth, a mom who'd pick up if he called. There are 1 billion people on this planet who would trade him for it in a heartbeat. But he couldn't feel a single ounce of that, because the phone had him measuring his real, solid, okay life against 100 strangers' fake perfect ones. And next to a fake perfect thing, a real okay thing looks like nothing. That's the theft. The feed doesn't just take your time, it takes your gratitude. It reaches into a life that's genuinely okay and convinces you it's garbage. And a man who can't feel what he's got is a poor man no matter what's in his bank account. Here's what turned for Marcus at least a little. Later that same night he was scrolling, of course he was, and he caught himself about to feel that sink again over somebody's vacation. And for the first time he heard the question in his own head. Compared to what? Compared to their trailer, compared to the 2 seconds they chose, not compared to their real life, which he'd never once seen and never would. And it didn't fix it, but it put a tiny crack in the spell, just enough light got in. So here's your assignment this week, and it's small, like always, because you're tired, and I mean it. Next time you feel that sink, that everybody's winning but me, drop in your gut when you're scrolling, I want you to say 2 words, just in your head. Compared to what? That's it. You don't have to unfollow anybody. You don't have to delete anything yet. You just have to catch the lie in the half second it's happening and name it. That's their movie poster. I'm comparing it to my Tuesday. Because you can't stop the sink from starting, but you can stop believing it. And the day you stop believing the highlight reel is the truth is the day the whole thing loses its grip on you. That rotten little feeling Marcus had, the relief when others failed. Here's what it actually was. It wasn't that he was a bad guy. It was proof of how much pain he was in. You only need other people to lose when you're convinced you're losing. A man who feels okay about his own life doesn't need anybody else's to fall apart. So that ugly feeling wasn't his villain, it was his wound, showing him exactly where it hurt. Put the phone down, pick your life up, the one you've actually got, not the one you keep measuring it against. But there was one story on that phone Marcus couldn't, compared to what, his way out of. One person, one little grey ring around a profile picture that he checked 40 times a day. The girl who already left. Chapter 4. The girl who already left. Her name was Sarah, and she'd been gone 7 months. 7 months, long enough that Marcus would tell anybody who asked that he was totally over it. He'd say it at work, he'd say it to his buddy Dave. He believed it in the daylight, mostly. And then it'd be 2 a.m. and his thumb would already be on her name before his brain even woke up enough to stop it. Let me paint you the exact thing he did, because I want you to see it. Not judge it, see it. He'd open the app, go to her profile, and first he'd check the little ring around her picture, grey if there's nothing new, coloured if she posted a story. And if there was a story, he'd watch it, every second of it, study it really. Who's in the background? Is that a guy's arm? Is she at a bar? Is she happy? Is she happier than when she was with me? And then, this is the part he never told anybody, he'd check to see if she'd watched his. He'd post some dumb story of his own, a photo of nothing, the sunset from the loading dock, just so there'd be something for her to watch. And then he'd check the little list of who viewed it, scroll through the names, looking for hers. 40 times a day, he'd told you. It was more. He'd lost count somewhere around 100. Here's what was really going on, and it took Marcus a long time to see it. He wasn't checking on Sarah. Sarah was gone. Sarah had made her choice and packed her stuff and driven off 7 months ago, and no amount of him watching her stories was going to change one single thing about that. He was keeping a wound open on purpose. Think about a cut on your arm. If you leave it alone, it scabs over, it heals, it fades, and one day you can't even find the scar. But if you pick at it every day, every night, dig your nail in and reopen it, it never heals. Not because it can't, because you won't let it. That's what the phone let Marcus do. It let him pick at the wound 40 times a day. Every time he checked her story, he ripped the scab off fresh. Every time he looked for her name in his viewers, he dug the nail back in. And then he'd wonder why, 7 months later, it still hurt exactly as much as day one. It hurt as much as day one because he was living day one, over and over, forever, on a loop. The phone had turned one heartbreak into 1,000 small ones, spread out over months, and he was the one pressing play every single time. Now I need to say something to you directly, and I need you to actually hear it, because I think there's a Sarah in your phone too. Maybe it's an ex, maybe it's a friend who cut you off. Maybe it's the family member who said the thing they said. Maybe it's the job that fired you and you still check their page to see how they're doing without you. There's somebody in that glass you keep going back to press on the bruise, just to feel if it still hurts. And it always does. and you always look surprised. Here's the truth, and it's a hard one, so I'm gonna say it soft. They already left. Whoever it is, they made their choice, and you checking their profile at 2 a.m. is not a relationship. It's not connection. It's not staying in touch. It's you, alone, in the dark, holding a piece of glass, hurting yourself with a picture of a person who is asleep in their own bed, not thinking about you at all. That's the part that should set you free, honestly. While you're up at 2 a.m. studying their story frame by frame, they're asleep. They're not doing this. This isn't a thing you're doing together. It's a thing you're doing to yourself, and you're the only one bleeding. Here's the night it turned for Marcus. He was doing the ritual. 2 a.m., blue light, fridge humming, watching Sarah's story, some clip of her and her friends at a restaurant, laughing. And he was studying it, frame by frame, when his thumb slipped and he accidentally hit the little reply arrow. Didn't send anything, but the box came up. That little text box, cursor blinking, ready for him to type a message to her. And he froze. Because he almost did it. He almost typed something. Some pathetic 2 a.m., hey, thinking about you, that he'd have died of shame over by breakfast. And in that frozen second, staring at that blinking cursor, he saw the whole thing clearly for the first time. He saw a grown man, 29 years old, lying in the dark, about to beg a picture on a screen to love him back. And here's the open loop, the thing he couldn't answer that night, the thing that chased him. Who was he actually missing? Because when he really sat with it, was it Sarah? The real Sarah, with her moods and her mess, and the way she left dishes in the sink, and the fights they used to have? Or was it just not being alone? Was it just having somebody? Was he grieving her, or was he grieving the version of himself that existed back when somebody chose him? Hold that, because the answer changes everything. He backed out of the message box, didn't send it, small mercy. And he put the phone down, and he lay there in the dark, and for the first time in 7 months he let himself actually feel it. Not pick at it, not check it, just feel it, the whole clean weight of it. And he cried a little, quiet, the way men do when they think nobody will ever know. And here's the strange thing, it hurt less that way. Feeling it straight hurt less than picking at it had for 7 months. Because that's how wounds work. You let them hurt honest once, all the way through, and they start to close. You keep picking, they stay open forever. So here's the answer to who he was missing. It wasn't Sarah, not really. He was missing himself, the him that felt wanted. And you can't get that back from her profile, because it was never in her profile. It was in him. He just gave her the credit for it. Here's your assignment this week, and it's the hardest small thing I've given you yet. I'm not gonna tell you to block them. Not yet. We'll get there. There's a whole chapter coming on the mercy of that word, block. But you're not ready, and that's okay. This week, all I want is this. Next time your thumb goes to their name on its own, and it will, probably tonight, I want you to catch it before you tap. Just catch it. And ask the one question Marcus asked. Who am I actually missing right now? Sit with it for 10 seconds before you tap. You can still tap after. I'm not going to stop you. But ask first. Because most of the time, the person you're missing isn't on that screen at all. The person you're missing is you. Put the phone down. Pick your life up. Stop picking at a wound that's begging you to let it heal. Now, Marcus was starting to see it. The time, the comparison, the girl who already left. He was starting to think maybe he just needed more willpower. Maybe he just needed to try harder, want it more, white-knuckle his way through. He was about to find out that willpower was never going to be enough, because the thing in his hand wasn't a phone, it was an opponent, and it was built by some of the smartest people alive to beat him. Chapter 5. Built to beat you. Marcus decided he was just gonna stop. That was the plan. That was the whole genius plan. He'd had enough of feeling like a loser about it, so one Sunday night he just gritted his teeth and decided, I have willpower. I'm a grown man. I'm gonna out-tough this thing. He lasted about a day and a half, and when he caved, Tuesday night, right back on the feed, right back checking Sarah's story, he did the thing you do. He turned on himself. What's wrong with me? Why am I so weak? Everybody else can put their phone down. Why can't I get it together? So I need to stop the story right here and tell you something, and this might be the most important thing I say in this whole book. So sit up for this one, even if you're lying down. It is not you. You are not weak. You are not broken. You do not lack willpower. Get that lie out of your head right now, because it's not just wrong, it's the exact lie that keeps you stuck. Here's the truth. You are one tired human being with one ordinary amount of willpower, going up against a machine that was designed on purpose by teams of brilliant, highly paid people using everything science knows about the human brain to defeat exactly that willpower. It's not a fair fight. It was never supposed to be a fair fight. Let me tell you what you're actually up against, because Marcus didn't know either, and knowing it changed how he saw the whole thing. That app on your phone, it's free. You ever really think about that? A company worth more money than most countries gives you this thing for free. Why? Because you're not the customer, you're the product. Your attention is the product. They sell it. Every minute you stare at that screen, they're selling those eyeballs to somebody, and the longer they keep you staring, the more they make. So they've got billions of dollars and thousands of the smartest engineers on Earth, all working on one single question, all day, every day. How do we keep him scrolling 5 more minutes? That's their whole job. That's what they go to work and do. Against you. Against your one tired brain after an 8-hour shift on a concrete floor. You feel that? That's not a fair fight, man. Blaming yourself for losing it is like blaming yourself for not out-arm wrestling a forklift. And here's how they do it. I want you to know the tricks, because the second you can see the hook, it starts to lose its power. You know the little pull down to refresh thing, where you drag the screen down and it spins and loads new stuff. That's not an accident. That's built to work exactly like a slot machine. Pull the lever, wait, see what you get. Sometimes it's boring, sometimes jackpot, it's something great. And it's the sometimes that hooks you. Your brain will pull that lever 1,000 times chasing the one jackpot, same as a guy at a casino who can't walk away from the machine. Same exact wiring. They know it. They built it that way on purpose. The little red notification dots? Red because red means urgent. Red means danger. Red grabs a part of your brain older than language. The buzz in your pocket trains you like a dog with a bell, till you feel it buzz when it didn't even buzz, the phantom buzz. You felt it. The feed that never ends, that has no bottom, no, you're all caught up, go to bed. That's on purpose too. Old media had an ending. The show ended. The newspaper ran out of pages. This never ends, because an ending is a chance for you to leave, and they don't want to give you one. Now here's the open loop. The thing Marcus wrestled with once he learned all this. He got mad, real mad, righteously mad. They did this to me. It's not my fault, it's theirs. They built the trap. And he sat in that anger for a couple days, and it felt good, honestly, felt way better than blaming himself. But then a harder question crept in, and it's the one I want you holding. Okay, it's not your fault it's a trap, but whose job is it to walk out of it? Hold that, because both things are true at once, and you need both. Here's where Marcus landed, and I think it's exactly right. It is not your fault that you're stuck, and it is still your responsibility to get unstuck. Those aren't opposites, both are true. A guy can fall into a hole he didn't dig. Somebody else dug it, somebody else hid it. It's 100% not his fault he fell in, and it's still nobody's job but his to climb out. Nobody's coming. The people who dug the hole sure aren't coming. They're making money off you being down there. So the anger's fair. Sit in it a minute if you want, but don't move in and live there, because anger at them doesn't climb you out of anything. Anger at them can actually keep you down there, because as long as it's all their fault, you never have to do the hard work of climbing. So drop the self-blame. That's poison. That's the lie that keeps you weak. But pick up the responsibility. That's not a burden, that's power. Because the day you stop asking, what's wrong with me, and start asking, okay, they built it to win, how do I beat it anyway? That's the day you stop being a victim of the thing and start being the one who walks away from it. Here's your assignment this week, and it's a real specific one. I want you to go into your phone's settings and turn off notifications for the apps that eat you alive. Not all notifications. Keep your texts, keep your calls, keep the stuff that's actual humans reaching for you. Just the feeds, the apps. Turn off their little red dots and their buzzes and their someone you might know posted garbage. Here's why this one matters more than it looks. You're not going to win this fight on pure willpower. I just spent this whole chapter telling you that. So you don't fight the machine with willpower. You fight it by disarming its weapons while your willpower's still fresh, in the daylight, before you're tired. Turning off notifications isn't you resisting the pull all night long. It's you reaching in during a strong moment and quietly unplugging the thing that creates the pull. You're not out-toughing the slot machine, you're cutting the wire to the lever. That's how you beat something smarter and stronger than you, not with more willpower, with better strategy. You change the battlefield while you've still got your wits, so that later, when you're tired and weak at 2 a.m., the fight's already half won. You're not weak, you've just been fighting fair against something that doesn't. Time to stop fighting fair. But there was a subtler thing the phone had done to Marcus. Something quieter than the time, quieter than the comparison. It had slowly, day by day, made him forget what he actually wanted, because he'd spent so long performing a version of himself for the screen. He'd been saying yes with his thumbs for so long, he couldn't remember the last time he knew what he really meant. Chapter 6. The Yes That Means No. Marcus liked a photo he hated. That's where I want to start, because it's such a small, stupid thing, and it's the whole chapter. He was scrolling one night, fridge humming, blue light, the usual, and a photo came up from a guy he barely knew. Some flex, some bragging thing. And Marcus felt that little sink, that must be nice, that flash of, I don't even like this dude, and his thumb double-tapped it, liked it, sent a little heart out into the world telling this guy, nice, love it, happy for you. He didn't decide to, his thumb just did it, on its own, like a reflex, like the like was already loaded and just went off. And Marcus lay there for a second, kind of stunned at himself, and thought, I just told a guy I liked something I hate. Why did I do that? Here's why that little moment matters more than it seems. Because it wasn't just a photo. Marcus had spent so many years saying yes with his thumbs, liking, hearting, so happy for you, congrats man, this is amazing, thousands and thousands of tiny yeses, most of them not true, most of them just reflex, just performance, that somewhere in there he'd lost the muscle that knows what you actually want, the muscle that can say the real thing, even to himself. Let me widen this out because it goes way past the phone.
Marcus was a guy who said yes when he meant no, his whole life. His manager asks him to cover a weekend shift he was dreading. Yeah, no problem. A buddy asks to borrow $40 Marcus needed himself. Yeah, sure, man. Somebody at a party talks his ear off about something he doesn't care about, and Marcus stands there nodding. Oh yeah, totally, that's crazy. Dying inside, looking for the exit. Yes, 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 out loud, while every real thing inside him was saying no. And the phone hadn't caused that exactly, but it had put that habit on steroids, because online you perform all the time. Every post is a little performance of a guy who's doing great. Every like is a little lie about what you feel. Every comment's a costume. And Marcus had been in that costume so long, wearing that face so long, that he'd honestly started to lose track of where the costume ended and he began. Here's the thing nobody tells you. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you're not being nice. You think you're being nice. You're actually telling a small lie. And you're telling it to two people at once, the person in front of you and yourself. And the lie to the other person, whatever, they'll survive. But the lie to yourself, that one compounds. That one's got interest on it, like a credit card you never pay down. Because a man who says yes when he means no, over and over, for years, eventually he forgets he ever had a no in him at all. He forgets he has preferences. He forgets he has a spine. He becomes a guy who just goes along, with everybody, with everything, a leaf on whatever river he's floating down, and he wakes up at 35, 40, in a life full of stuff he said yes to and never actually chose, wondering how he got there. He got there one fake yes at a time. Now here's the open loop, and this one genuinely rattled Marcus. He started paying attention, just noticing his yeses for a couple days, the way I had him notice the phantom pull earlier. And what he found scared him. He couldn't find his no. He literally could not remember the last time he'd said a clean, honest no to another human being. Not a, yeah, well, I don't know, maybe, we'll see, an actual no. And it made him wonder something dark. If I can't say no to anybody, do I even exist? Or am I just a shape other people press their wants into? Hold that, because there's an answer, and it's better than it sounds. Let me connect this back for you because it's all the same disease. Remember the girl who already left? Remember him posting a sunset story just so Sarah might watch it? That was a yes that means no too. He didn't post that because he wanted to share a sunset. He posted it performing a version of himself for an audience of one who wasn't even watching. That's the same lie. He'd gotten so good at being who he thought people wanted that he'd stopped being anybody at all. The empty feeling he had at 2 a.m., a lot of it was that. It's lonely being a costume, even when the costume's got followers, especially then, because they're not following you. They can't. There's no you there to follow. There's just the guy who says yes. Here's where it started to turn. Marcus was at work, and his manager came up Friday afternoon
and asked him to cover Saturday, again, third weekend in a row. And Marcus felt the, "yeah, no problem," loading up in his throat, automatic, same as that double tap on the photo he hated.
And he caught it. For 1 second he caught it. And he heard himself. And he did something that terrified him. He said, "I can't this weekend." That's it. 4 words. I can't this weekend. No excuse, no long story, no, "well, see, the thing is." Just a clean no. And you know what happened? Nothing. The manager went, "Oh, okay, no worries," and asked somebody else. That was it. The whole catastrophe Marcus's body had been bracing for his entire life, the guy just shrugged and walked off. Marcus stood there in his orange apron, kind of shaking, honestly, over 4 words. And underneath the shaking was something he hadn't felt in years. It felt like standing up straight after being hunched over so long you forgot you were hunched. It felt like there was a hymn in there after all. So here's the answer to that dark question. Do you even exist if you can't say no? Yes, you always did. The no didn't disappear, it just got buried under 1,000 fake yeses. And every honest no you say from here on out digs a little of it back out. You don't build a self from scratch. You unbury the one that was there the whole time. Here's your assignment this week, and I want you to actually do this one because it's the one that gives you back. Say 1 honest no this week. Just one, out loud, to a real person. Small is fine, great actually. Say no to the extra shift, or the group thing you don't want to go to, or the favor that's going to cost you what you don't have to give. And here's the key, don't explain it. Don't build a paragraph of excuses. No is a complete sentence. I can't is a complete sentence. The excuse is just the yes trying to sneak back in. And while you're at it, the online version. Scroll one night without liking a single thing. Not one. Just look. Notice how weird it feels, how much your thumb wants to reach out and perform, and don't let it. Just be a guy who saw some stuff and felt what he actually felt about it, and told no one. Because you can't put the phone down and pick your life up if you don't know whose life it is. And you don't know whose life it is until you can say no. Your no is the fence around your yard. Without it, you don't have a yard. You've just got a field everybody walks through. Find your no this week. It's still in there. I promise you it's still in there. Marcus was seeing everything now. The time, the comparison, the wound he kept picking, the machine built to beat him, the costume he'd been wearing so long he forgot his own face. And he knew what he had to do. He'd known for weeks, really, and been too scared to do it. He had to delete it. Actually delete it. Drag it to the trash and let it go. His thumb hovered over that little app, shaking, and that was the longest 10 seconds of his year. Chapter 7. The First Delete. His thumb was shaking over the app, and I'm not exaggerating. It was a Sunday night. Of course it was a Sunday night. The Sunday scaries thick in the air, that specific dread of Monday coming for you. Marcus was sitting on the edge of his bed, feet on the cold floor for once instead of under the covers, phone in both hands. And he'd done the thing where you press and hold on the app until all the little icons start to wiggle and that tiny X or minus appears in the corner, the one that means you can kill me now if you want. And he just couldn't press it. 10 seconds he held there, felt like 10 minutes, and in those 10 seconds his brain threw everything it had at him, every excuse, every reason to stop. What if somebody needs to reach you? What if you miss something important?
What about the people you actually like following? What if you're bored? What are you even going to do with your hands? It's not that bad. You could just use it less. You don't have to go nuclear. Come on, everybody has it. You'll be the weird guy who's not on it. You've heard those voices too, every one of them. They come roaring up the second you get close to actually letting go of something that's hurting you. And here's what I've learned about those voices. The louder they get, the more you know you're onto something. A thing that had no grip on you wouldn't fight this hard to stay. Here's the one that almost got Marcus, the sneaky one. You could just use it less. Man, that one's a killer, because it sounds so reasonable, so mature. I don't need to delete it, I'll just be disciplined about it. I'll set limits, I'll use it like a normal person. Marcus had been telling himself, I'll just use it less, for 2 years. 2 years, and it had never once worked, not for a single week, because, remember chapter 5, the thing is built so that you can't use it less. Use it less is exactly the trap. It keeps the thing in your hand and asks your tired willpower to fight it every single time you pick it up, 40 times a day for the rest of your life. That's not a plan. That's a life sentence of small battles you're gonna lose most of. Deleting it is different. Deleting it is one hard battle right now, tonight, and then the war's over. You don't have to resist it 40 times a day if it's not there. You resist it once. That's the whole trick. You move the fight from 1,000 weak moments to one strong one. So Marcus pressed it. He pressed the little X, and the phone did its polite little thing. Delete app? Deleting this app will also delete its data. Are you sure? And he almost backed out right there, hand on the doorknob. But he thought about the reflection in the black glass from that first night. How many nights? And he thought about 6 hours and 22 minutes a day. And he thought about liking a photo he hated with a thumb that moved on its own. And he pressed delete. And the app just vanished. Little space where it used to be. The other icons slid over to fill the gap, smooth, like it was never there. And Marcus sat on the edge of his bed in the quiet and stared at that spot on the screen where 2 years of his life used to live. You want to know what he felt? I'll be honest with you, because the movie version would tell you he felt free and light and amazing, birds singing. He felt sick. He felt a genuine wave of panic, loss, almost grief. His thumb actually went to the spot where the app had been, muscle memory, reaching for a ghost, and found nothing there. And he felt this little jolt of, no, wait, where'd it go? Like he'd lost his keys, like he'd lost a friend. And here's the open loop I want you holding. In that moment, Marcus was dead sure he'd made a mistake, certain of it. Sitting there feeling that sick, panicky loss, every cell in his body was screaming, "Re-download it, you idiot. This feels terrible. Why would you do this to yourself?" So the question is, was he wrong? Was deleting it a mistake, since it felt so bad? Hold that, because how you answer it decides whether you make it through the next chapter or cave like he almost did. Let me tell you something true about that sick feeling, because you're going to feel it too, and I don't want it to fool you. The panic you feel when you delete the thing that's hurting you, that's not proof you need it. That's proof of how deep the hooks were. That's withdrawal. Same as a guy who quit smoking feels awful for 2 weeks. The awful isn't a sign he should smoke. The awful is the addiction screaming on its way out the door. The worse it feels to let go of something, the more that thing had its claws in you, and the more you needed to let go. Marcus felt sick because the thing had been running his brain for 2 years. Of course it felt sick to unplug it. But feeling sick and being wrong are not the same thing. Sometimes the right move feels exactly like a mistake for a while, and if you only ever do the things that feel good immediately, you'll stay exactly where you are forever. Because everything that changes your life feels bad at first. So no, deleting it was not a mistake. The sick feeling was not a warning, it was a withdrawal. And the only thing you have to do with a withdrawal is outlast it. That's it. You don't have to beat it, you just have to be more stubborn than it for a little while, and it always passes. Marcus didn't know that yet, sitting there sick on the edge of his bed. He just knew he'd done a hard thing and it felt terrible, and he'd promised himself he'd give it 1 week before he even thought about re-downloading. 1 week. He wrote it on a sticky note actually, a real one, paper, stuck it to the black mirror of the TV. 1 week, then decide. Here's your assignment. And you knew this one was coming, didn't you? You've been waiting for it, maybe a little scared of it.
Delete one. Just one. Tonight or this week. The one that hurts you the most. The one you open on reflex. The one you know, in your gut, is the Sarah's story one. The one you'd be embarrassed to say your daily hours on out loud. You know exactly which app I mean. You thought of it just now. Press and hold. Watch it wiggle. Feel all those voices come screaming up. What if? What about? You could just use it less. Let them scream. And press delete anyway. And then, this is the important part, expect to feel terrible. Plan on it, so it doesn't fool you. When that sick, panicky, I made a mistake feeling hits, you're gonna know exactly what it is. It's not a mistake. It's the hooks coming out. And hooks coming out always hurt more than hooks going in. Give it 1 week before you even let yourself think about re-downloading. Sticky note if you have to. 1 week, then decide. Put the phone down. Pick your life up. Sometimes you gotta bleed a little to stop the bleeding for good. But that empty square on the screen wasn't the hard part. Deleting it took 10 seconds of courage. The hard part was the next 3 days, the empty hand, the itch in his palm, the phantom buzz, the long, boring, restless hours with nothing to reach for. Marcus was about to find out who he was with nothing in his hands, and he was not gonna like the first thing he found. Chapter 8. The Empty Hand. Day 2 was worse than day 1. Nobody warns you about that. Day 1, deleting it, Marcus had adrenaline. He'd done a big, brave thing and there was a little charge in it. Day 2, the charge was gone, and all that was left was the hole. Here's what day 2 actually looked like, minute to minute, because I want you to see how small and stupid and hard it really is. He wakes up, and before his feet hit the cold floor, before his eyes are even all the way open, his thumb is already moving, reaching for the app. That's the reflex, remember, the very first thing from chapter 1, thumb scrolling before his feet touch the ground. Except now there's nothing there. His thumb swipes to the spot and finds an empty square, and his brain goes, huh? And reaches again, and nothing. And he lies there, thumb twitching at a ghost, feeling honestly a little insane. He gets to work. Break time. Sits on his bucket by the loading dock, cold coffee, and his hand goes to his pocket, pulls out the phone, opens it, and just stares, because there's nothing to do. The thing he did on every break for 2 years isn't there. So he's just a guy holding a phone, looking at his home screen, with 15 minutes and no idea how to spend them. 15 minutes has never felt so long in his life. And this is the part I really need you to hear, because it's the part that breaks most people. He got bored, deeply, achingly bored.
Bored in a way he hadn't been since he was a kid, and it turns out he'd forgotten how to be 1 second of a red light, 1 second in line at the drive-through, 1 second of quiet. He'd killed it instantly with the phone, reached in and stuffed the silence full of feed before he could even feel it. So he'd never sat in boredom as an adult, not once. And now here it was, and it felt unbearable, restless, itchy, like his skin was too tight. His hand kept reaching for a thing that wasn't there, and the reaching itself was almost worse than anything. And the phantom buzz, you know, the phantom buzz. He'd feel his phone vibrate in his pocket, clear as day, reach for it. Nothing. It hadn't buzzed. His own body was so trained, so wired to that little hit, that it was manufacturing fake buzzes just to get him to check. His own body was working for the machine, against him, even with the app gone. Now here's where it gets real. Here's the open loop for this chapter, and it's the ugliest thing Marcus found in this whole story. Sitting in all that boredom and restlessness, with nothing to numb it, something started coming up. Something the scrolling had been covering the whole time. Feelings, the ones underneath. Because here's what he figured out. Day 2, 3, sitting in the quiet with an empty hand. He wasn't scrolling because the feed was so interesting. He was scrolling to not feel something. And now that the feed was gone, the something was right there, waiting for him, patient, like it had been waiting the whole time for him to run out of ways to avoid it. And the question that scared him was, what have I been running from? What's actually down there under 2 years of scrolling? Hold that. Because whatever it is for you, and there's something for you too, it's the real reason for all of it. Let me tell you what Marcus found down there, because I think it'll help you find yours. Under the scrolling was loneliness, plain and deep. The feed had been fake company, voices, faces, a fake crowd in his pocket, so he never had to feel that he came home to an empty apartment every single night, and no one was coming, and no one really knew him. And under that, further down, was fear, that he was falling behind, that his life wasn't going to add up to much, that he was going to be standing on that concrete floor in an orange apron at 50, and this was it. This was the whole thing. And under that, the deepest one, grief. Not even about Sarah, really. Grief about time. All those nights, all those years he could feel had leaked out of him through that glass, and he was never getting them back. And he didn't know if there was still time to make the rest count. That's what was under the scrolling. That's what the scrolling was for. To keep him from ever having to sit in a quiet room with that. And here's the thing, here's the turn. Sitting with it didn't kill him. That's the whole secret. He was so sure that if he ever actually felt that stuff, all the way, with nothing to numb it, it would swallow him whole. And it didn't. He sat on his bed, day 3, no phone, and let the loneliness and the fear and the grief just be there, in the room, humming along with the fridge, and it was heavy, and it was awful, and he got through it. It didn't swallow him, it just moved through like weather. It rained, and then it stopped. And on the other side of it, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Clear, quiet, awake. Like the static had turned off and he could hear his own thoughts for the first time since he could remember. Boring, quiet, real thoughts. His. And he'd missed them without even knowing they were gone. So here's what the empty hand actually is. It's not a punishment. It feels like one. Days 2 and 3, no question. But it's the space where your real life was supposed to be. The phone didn't just take your time. It took up the room where boredom turns into ideas, where quiet turns into knowing what you want, where sitting with a hard feeling turns into finally dealing with it. You've got to let your hand be empty long enough for something real to fill it, and it will, but not on day 1, not on day 2. You've got to outlast the itch. Here's your assignment, and it's maybe the strangest one yet. Let yourself be bored, on purpose. Once this week, when you'd normally reach for the phone, the drive-through line, the break, the couch at night, don't. Just sit there with the empty hand and the boredom, and let it be as awful as it wants to be. Don't fix it, don't fill it. Just find out that it can't actually kill you.
And notice what floats up. Because when you stop numbing, the thing you were numbing comes to the surface. And that's not a bug, that's the whole point. Whatever comes up, the lonely, the scared, the sad, let it come. Sit with it the way Marcus sat with his. It's weather, it rains, it stops. And on the other side of it is the quiet you've been starving for without even knowing it. You survived it, whatever it is. You just kept scrolling so you'd never have to find out you'd survive it. Put the phone down, pick your life up, even the boring parts, especially the boring parts. That's where the life actually is. Marcus was through the worst of the withdrawal now. The empty hand was getting a little easier, but there was one wound that deleting the app hadn't closed. One person he could still find if he went looking, on the other apps, in the corners. Sarah was still reachable, and as long as she was reachable, the wound stayed open. There was only one word left that could close it, and it was the hardest, kindest word he'd ever have to use. Chapter 9. Block the bleeding. Here's what Marcus figured out about a week in. Deleting the main app didn't get rid of Sarah. She was still there, findable. On the other apps he hadn't deleted, in the corners of the internet, one search away. And he knew it. And knowing she was reachable was its own kind of torture, because every quiet moment some voice went, "You could just check." Real quick, just once, just to see. So one Thursday night, rain on the window, the actual sound of rain on glass, and the fridge humming, and Marcus sitting there, he caved a little. Not all the way, but he found her. On one of the other apps, and he looked. And it was the same thing it always was. Her, living her life, fine, happy, gone. And he got that same old sick feeling, that same picking at the scab, that same 2 a.m. ache in the middle of a Thursday. 7 months, almost 8 now, and one look put him right back at day 1. And sitting there in that familiar misery, he finally got mad at the right thing. Not at her, not even at himself. At the situation. At the fact that as long as she was one search away, he was never gonna heal, because a man can't heal a wound he's got 24-hour access to reopen. And that's when he thought about the word, the one he'd been avoiding for 8 months because it felt so final, so harsh, so dramatic. Block. Now I need to talk to you about that word because you're avoiding it too, and you're avoiding it for the same wrong reason Marcus was. You think blocking someone is cruel, or petty, or dramatic, or that it sends a message, makes you look like you still care, like you're not over it, like you lost. You've got this whole story that a mature, chill, over-it person would just leave it be, leave the door open, be the bigger person. We're adults. I want to blow that up right now, because it's exactly backwards. Blocking is not cruelty. Blocking is mercy. It's mercy you give yourself. Think about it like this. You broke your arm, and there's this button, and every time you press it, it re-breaks the arm, fresh, all the way. And the doctor says, look, that arm is never gonna heal as long as that button is sitting right there next to your bed, because you're a human being,
and at 2 a.m. you're gonna press it. You always do. Would it be dramatic to get rid of the button? Would it be petty? Would leaving the button there prove how mature and healed you are? No, it'd be insane to leave it there. The button isn't keeping the door open to some beautiful reunion. The button is just breaking your arm over and over. Getting rid of it isn't harsh. It's the first sane, kind thing you could do for yourself. Block is getting rid of the button. And here's the part Marcus really had to swallow. Blocking her wasn't about her at all. That's what he'd been getting wrong. He kept thinking about what it'd mean to her, what she'd think, whether she'd notice, whether it'd hurt her feelings, whether it made him the bad guy. She wasn't gonna notice, that's the truth. She'd moved on 8 months ago. She wasn't lying awake checking whether Marcus could still see her posts. Blocking her wasn't a message to her. She was never gonna get it. It was a message to himself. It was Marcus telling Marcus, "I'm done bleeding for this. I'm taking the button away from my own hand because I love myself enough now to stop letting me hurt me." Here's the open loop though, because it wasn't clean. Right as his thumb hovered over Block, a voice came up, soft and awful. But if you block her, it's really over. As long as you can see her, there's a thread, a tiny thread, a someday. Block her and you're cutting the last thread. Are you really ready to admit it's completely, totally over? Hold that, because that voice is the exact voice keeping you tied to whoever your Sarah is, and it's lying to you about what the thread actually is. Here's the truth Marcus landed on, and it set him free. That thread wasn't hope. It wasn't a someday. It was a leash. It felt like a connection to her, but it wasn't connecting him to anything real. She was gone. The real her wasn't on the other end of that thread, just her highlight reel. The thread wasn't tying him to Sarah. It was tying him to the past, to the version of him that got left. It was keeping him standing in a doorway she'd walked out of 8 months ago, holding it open for someone who was never, ever coming back through it. And cutting that thread wasn't losing her. He'd already lost her. That happened 8 months ago, in reality, whether he blocked her or not. Cutting the thread was just him finally agreeing to live in reality instead of in a doorway. So he pressed it. Block. And the app asked him, "Are you sure?" the way they do. And he said yes. And she was gone. You want to know what he felt this time? Not sick like the first delete. Something else. He felt like he could breathe. Like a door he'd been holding open against the wind, arms shaking for 8 months. He finally just let it swing shut. And the wind stopped. And the room got quiet. And his arms, which he didn't even know were shaking, finally got to rest. There was grief in it, sure, real grief. Closing a door for good has grief in it, but it was clean grief this time, the honest kind from chapter 4, the kind that hurts once, all the way through, and then starts to actually heal, instead of the picking at it kind that hurts a little bit every day forever. Here's your assignment, and I already know some of you have been dreading this one since chapter 4. Block your Sarah, whoever it is. The ex, the friend who cut you off, the person whose page you check to see if they're doing worse than you, the account that makes you feel like garbage every single time and you follow it anyway. You know exactly who it is. You knew before I finished the sentence. Block them. Not as a message to them, they'll probably never even know, as mercy to yourself. As you finally taking the re-break my arm button off your own nightstand. And when that voice comes up, but then it's really over, you're cutting the last thread, you tell it the truth. It was already over. You're not cutting a thread to them, you're cutting a leash to the past. And the door you're letting swing shut was never gonna let anything good back in, just the wind. Let it swing shut. Let your arms rest. Put the phone down. Pick your life up. You can't do it standing in a doorway somebody else already walked out of. And here's what Marcus found. Once the door was shut and the wind stopped, and his hand was finally empty and quiet. The world had been right there the whole time, right in front of him, just on the other side of the glass he'd been staring into for years.
And the first time he really looked up and saw it, a completely ordinary Tuesday, it almost knocked him over. Chapter 10. The world was right there. It was the most ordinary moment of Marcus's life, and it nearly brought him to his knees. Here's the whole thing. That's what gets me about it. There's no drama in it at all. It was a Tuesday evening. He'd gotten off a shift, and instead of doing what he always did, drive home, microwave something, get in bed, disappear into the glass, he didn't have the glass anymore. App gone, Sarah blocked, and he was standing in the parking lot of the store by his car, keys in his hand, and there was just this gap, this empty stretch of time where the scrolling used to go. So he did something he hadn't done on purpose in years. He just stood there and looked up. And the sky was doing that thing the sky does at the end of a summer day in Ohio, going orange and pink and this deep bruised purple at the edges, clouds lit up gold underneath, the whole thing enormous and free and happening right over the hardware store parking lot like it did every single night, whether anybody looked or not. And Marcus stood there in his orange apron he'd forgotten to take off, keys in his hand, and looked at it, really looked. And he felt his throat get tight. Because here's what hit him standing there. This happens every night. This happens every single night. This exact, impossible, beautiful thing, free, right above him, and he had missed it every night for years because his head was down in a screen. How many sunsets had he scrolled through? How many had happened, gold and pink and gone in 20 minutes, while he watched some stranger's vacation on a 4-inch rectangle? He'd been so busy looking at pictures of other people's lives that he'd been walking under the roof of his own life with his head down the whole time. And then it kept happening. That was the thing. Once he looked up once, he couldn't stop noticing. He drove home with the radio on instead of nothing, and he actually heard a song, a whole song, start to finish, and it was good, and he'd forgotten music could just fill up a car like that. He stopped at a light and, he told me this like it was a religious experience, he watched an old man help an old woman up off a bench, slow, careful, his hand under her elbow, and it was just two strangers he'd never see again, but it was so tender, so full, and it was right there, in the real world, in 3 dimensions, at a stoplight in Columbus, and it made his chest ache in a good way. He got home and there was a kid next door shooting hoops in the driveway, the sound of the ball on the concrete, thump, thump, the rattle of the rim, the streetlight just coming on. Ordinary, so ordinary, and so much more alive than anything that had ever come through that glass. Here's the open loop, the thing that ached in Marcus for days after this. How much did I already miss? Not the sunsets, I mean the real stuff. How many conversations had he half had, nodding at somebody while his thumb worked under the table? How many dinners had he not tasted? How many times had somebody he loved been right across from him, talking, reaching for him, and he was there but not there, eyes down, gone into the feed? How much of his one life had he been physically present for and completely, totally absent from? Hold that, because it's a heavy question, and there's only one good thing you can do with the answer. Let me tell you what Marcus did with it, because it's the only move that doesn't crush you. He grieved it for a minute, real grief, the honest kind again, and then he made a decision. He decided, I can't get the missed ones back, but I'm here now, and there's a whole rest of my life of sunsets and songs and old men helping old women up off benches, and I'm going to be present for those, starting tonight, starting with this one, because that's the only sane thing to do with all that lost time. You can't spend the rest of your life mourning the sunsets you scrolled through. That's just more absence, more head down, missing the ones happening now, while you cry about the ones you missed then. The only way to honor all that lost time is to be violently, gratefully present for the time you've got left. And here's what nobody tells you about putting the phone down. Everybody makes it sound like a sacrifice, like you're giving something up, like it's discipline, it's hard, it's a diet, it's punishment. It's not. That's the secret Marcus found in that parking lot. Putting the phone down isn't giving something up, it's getting something back. It's getting the whole world back, the actual, physical, three-dimensional, breathing world, the one with sunsets and music and strangers being tender and basketballs on concrete. You didn't lose anything worth keeping when you put the phone down. You gained back the entire planet. The phone was the small thing, the tiny, glowing 4-inch thing, and you traded the whole world for it every day without noticing. Marcus just noticed, that's all. And once you notice, you can't unnotice, and thank God for that. Here's your assignment this week. It might be my favorite one in this whole book. Look up once this week. When you'd normally have your head down in the phone, waiting somewhere, walking somewhere, sitting somewhere, just look up instead and actually take in what's in front of you. The sky, the room, the faces, the light, whatever's there. It's always something. The world is always doing something beautiful and ordinary right in front of you, and it's been doing it this whole time, patient, waiting for you to lift your head. And if you've got a person across from you, put it down and look at them. Face down, screen dark, eyes up. Give one person your whole face for one whole conversation this week. Watch what happens. Watch how they light up when they realize you're actually there. That's a gift you can give somebody for free, and you've been too head down to give it for years. Put the phone down. Pick your life up. It's right there. It was always right there. You just have to lift your head to see it. Marcus was flying now. Sky felt bigger. World felt realer. He was 10 days clean, and he honestly thought the hard part was behind him. And that's exactly when it got him. Because that's always when it gets you. When you think you've won. The night he downloaded it again. Chapter 11, the night he downloaded it again. 12 days clean, and Marcus downloaded it again on a Friday night, and I want to tell you exactly how it happened, because it's going to happen to you too, and I don't want it to take you by surprise. It didn't happen when he was strong, that's the first thing. The machine's smarter than that. It doesn't come for you when you're standing in a sunset feeling great. It waits. It was a bad Friday. One of those days where everything's just a little wrong. He'd gotten his hours cut at work. The store was adjusting staffing, which is a nice way of saying less money in a paycheck that was already too thin. So he was doing the math on the drive home, the rent math, the how am I going to make this month work math, and it had that cold feeling in it, that behind again feeling. And he got home to the empty apartment. Fridge humming, rain starting up on the window again, and it was quiet. Too quiet. And here's the thing, 12 days ago that quiet had felt like peace. Tonight it felt like loneliness.
Same quiet, totally different feeling, because he was tired and stressed and low. And when you're tired and stressed and low, the quiet stops sounding like peace and starts sounding like nobody in the world knows you're alive. And that's when the voice came, the reasonable one, the worst one.
You've done so good, 12 whole days. You've basically beaten this thing. You're not addicted anymore. An addict couldn't have gone 12 days. So it's fine now. You can handle it now. Just download it for tonight, just to take the edge off this garbage day, and you'll delete it again in the morning. You're strong enough now. One night won't hurt. You hear how clever that is? It used his success against him. It took the 12 good days and turned them into the reason to break. You're so healthy now that it's safe to do the unhealthy thing. That's the trap. That's the exact trap. And Marcus, tired and low and lonely on a rainy Friday, walked right into it. He downloaded it. Took 30 seconds. The little progress circle spun and the app landed back in that empty square where it had been, like it had never left, like the 12 days never happened. And he logged in. It remembered him. Of course it remembered him. It had just been sitting out there in a server somewhere the whole time, waiting, patient as a spider, and he started to scroll. And here's the ugly part. It felt good. I'm not gonna lie to you and say it felt hollow right away. It didn't. It felt good, that first hit, that first pull-down refresh, that first flood of faces and noise into the lonely quiet. That's why we go back. It works. For about 20 minutes it genuinely works. And then it was 2 a.m. and Marcus was exactly where he'd started. Blue light on his face in the dark, fridge humming, thumb moving on its own, up, 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 chasing something that wasn't there. And because muscle memory is a demon, he'd already, without deciding to, gone looking for Sarah, forgetting he'd blocked her, hitting the wall of that block and feeling the old wound flare up anyway. 12 days of climbing, and in one rainy Friday night, he was right back at the bottom of the hole. Same reflection in the black glass, same how many nights, same everything. Here's the open loop, and it's the darkest moment in Marcus's whole story, so I'm going to sit with him in it a second. He put the phone down at 2 a.m., sick to his stomach, and the voice that came now was not the tempting one. It was the crushing one, the one that had been waiting on the other side of the relapse the whole time. See, you're a fraud. 12 days and you folded like it was nothing. You'll never actually change. You're exactly who you always were. You did all this work, the deleting, the blocking, the sunsets, and look, one bad day and it's all gone. Why even try? You clearly can't. This is just who you are. Hold that voice, because that voice, not the relapse, the voice after the relapse, that voice is the thing that actually destroys people. And I need you to know how to answer it, because Marcus is lying there right now believing it, and whether he gets up tomorrow or stays down for good comes down entirely to whether he believes that voice or sees through it. So let me tell you the truth about that night, and I need you to really take this one in, because this is the chapter that saves you when you slip, and you will slip. The relapse was not proof that he failed. The relapse was part of it. Nobody quits something with hooks this deep in a clean, straight line. That's a fantasy. That's the movie version. Real change looks like a stock market that's going up over time, but is jagged as hell up close, full of drops and crashes and scary red days. 12 up, 1 down. That's not failure. That's the shape of winning. It just doesn't feel like it on the down day. And here's the thing the crushing voice conveniently leaves out.
12 days ago, Marcus couldn't have gone 12 hours. The fact that he strung 12 days together at all, that's not nothing, that's everything. That's proof the muscle is real and growing. One relapse doesn't erase 12 days of proof. You don't unlearn how to ride a bike because you fell off once. The falling off is how you learn where the edges are. But I'm not going to pretend to you that this part's easy, and I'm going to leave Marcus right here on purpose tonight. At the bottom, 2 a.m., phone in his hand again, the app reinstalled, the crushing voice in his ear telling him he's a fraud who'll never change. Because that's exactly where a lot of you are right now. Maybe not with a phone, but you know that feeling. You did the work, you slipped, and now you're lying in the dark listening to the voice that says, "See, you'll never change. Why even try?" I want you to sit in it with Marcus tonight, both of you at the bottom, and just know this one thing before you sleep. The fact that it hurts this much to be back down here, that's not proof you failed. That's proof you changed. 12 days ago, being back on the app wouldn't have bothered you at all. It would have been Tuesday. The fact that it feels like a gut punch tonight, that means the old you is already gone. The old you didn't feel bad about this. Only the new you does. Here's your assignment this week, and it's different because this one's not about the phone at all. Think of a time you slipped. Any slip. The diet, the gym, the drinking, the phone, the promise you made yourself and broke. And I want you to notice the voice that came after. The one that said, "See, you'll never change. You're a fraud. Why even try?" Get familiar with that voice this week. Learn its face. Because that voice is not telling you the truth, and it is not on your side, and it has ended more comebacks than any relapse ever did. The slip doesn't beat you. The slip is survivable, always. It's the voice after the slip that beats you, the one that turns one bad night into, "Why even try?" into quitting for good. Learn that voice this week, so that next time you slip, you recognize it the second it opens its mouth, and you know exactly what it is. A liar standing on your chest, hoping you'll agree with it and stay down. Don't agree with it. That's the whole job. Don't agree with it. Marcus is at the bottom tonight, phone in his hand, voice in his ear. 12 days of work apparently in ashes. Tomorrow morning he's going to wake up and face a choice. The only choice that's ever actually mattered in this whole story. Not whether he fell, whether he gets up. Chapter 12. Get up anyway. Marcus woke up Saturday morning feeling like garbage. Hungover almost, except there was no alcohol in it. Just that specific sick feeling of having been up till 3 a.m. scrolling. That wired and wrecked feeling, that self-disgust sitting in your chest like a stone before you've even opened your eyes. And his thumb was already moving, first thing, reaching for the app that was back on his phone now. Because he'd reinstalled it, remember? It was right there again, waiting, and here's the moment. The whole book really comes down to this next 30 seconds of Marcus's life. So watch what he does. He's lying there, thumb on the app. Every reason in the world to just keep going. He already blew it. The streak's dead. The 12 days are gone. So what's the difference now, right? Might as well scroll the weekend away and feel bad and start over Monday. Monday I'll change. You know that voice. That's the voice that's kept you exactly where you are for how many years now. That's the voice that whispers, "You already broke it, so today doesn't count. Might as well go all the way. Start clean Monday." Let me stop and tell you why that voice is the single most dangerous one in the whole book. More dangerous than the temptation, more dangerous than the relapse itself. Because here's the thing about a slip. One slip is a slip. It's a pothole. You hit it, it rattles you, you keep driving. Not a big deal. Everybody hits potholes. But the voice that says, you already blew it, so give up on today entirely and start Monday, that voice turns one slip into a spiral. It turns a pothole into driving your car off a cliff. It's the difference between spilling a little of your coffee and going, well, guess I'll pour the whole cup on the floor now. That's insane, right? You'd never do that with coffee. But we do it with our whole lives, constantly. I ate one bad meal. Guess the whole week's ruined. I'll start the diet Monday. I missed one workout. Guess I'm off the wagon. I'll restart next month. I scrolled last night. Guess I'm back to square one. Might as well scroll all weekend. One slip never ruined anybody. It's the might as well after the slip that ruins people. The slip costs you a night. The might as well costs you the comeback. So here's what Marcus did. And it was so small. It was almost nothing, but it was everything. He took his thumb off the app, and he deleted it again. Right there, Saturday morning, sick and low and hungover on shame. He pressed and held, and the icons wiggled, and he hit the little X and, are you sure? And yes, gone. Again, second delete. And you know what? The second delete was easier than the first, way easier. Because the first time, he didn't know if he could survive without it. This time he did. He had 12 days of proof sitting right there that he could. The relapse hadn't erased the proof. The proof was still his. Here's the open loop for this chapter. The thing Marcus had to figure out Saturday morning to keep going. He had to decide what the 12 days had actually been. Because the crushing voice said the relapse erased them. 12 days, gone, wasted, back to zero. And if that was true, then honestly, why bother? If every slip sends you back to zero, nobody could ever win anything. So which was it? Were the 12 days erased? Or were they still his? Hold that, because how you count your slips decides whether you ever get anywhere. Here's what Marcus decided, and it's the truth, so take it. The 12 days weren't erased. You do not go back to zero. That's the lie that keeps people quitting forever. The idea that one slip wipes the slate, so you're always starting over from nothing, so nothing ever adds up. But that's not how it works. It's not a streak you lose, it's a muscle you're building. And here's the thing about a muscle. You don't lose the strength because you skipped a day at the gym. The 12 days were reps. They built something real in him, real proof, real experience, real strength. And one bad night at the gym doesn't undo 12 days of lifting. He didn't restart at zero Saturday morning. He restarted at day 12 with a scar and a lesson the first 12 days didn't have. He came back stronger because now he knew exactly what a relapse looked like, exactly which voice caused it, exactly how it felt, so he'd see it coming next time. The relapse wasn't a subtraction, it was tuition. He paid one bad night to learn a lesson that's gonna protect him for years. That's not going backward. That's an expensive but real step forward. And this connects to everything, so let me tie it together. Remember way back in chapter 2, the guy who broke his 5 minutes promise every night and slowly stopped trusting himself. Every broken promise a vote against himself. Well, this Saturday morning was Marcus casting the biggest vote for himself he'd ever cast. Because anybody can keep going when the streak's alive, and it's easy. Getting up the morning after you fell, sick, ashamed, with every reason to quit, and deleting it again anyway. That's the vote that actually rebuilds the trust. That's the one that tells the deepest part of you, I've got you. Even when I fall, I've got you. I always come back for you. And a man who knows he'll always come back for himself, that man is free. Because he's not scared of falling anymore. He knows falling isn't the end, only staying down is. Here's your assignment this week, and it's the most important one I've given you, so hear me. You're gonna slip at something, this week or soon. The phone or something else, a habit, a promise, a plan. You're gonna fall. I'm not hoping for it, I'm just telling you the truth, because you're human. And when you do, I want you to get up the same day. Not Monday, not next month, not after I start fresh. The same day. That's the whole assignment. Fall in the morning, get up by the afternoon. Don't let one slip become a lost day, become a lost week, become, I'll start over Monday, become another year gone. The second you catch yourself in a slip, you say the only sentence that matters. Okay, that happened, and I'm getting up right now. Not tomorrow, now. Because champions aren't people who never fall. That's a fairy tale. Champions are people who get up faster. That's the whole difference. That's the entire secret. They just get up faster. Put the phone down, pick your life up, and when you drop it again, because you will, pick it up again, same day, every time. Marcus was back on his feet, second delete done, all day, without fail, before he was even awake enough to fight it. Chapter 13. Guard the Morning. Marcus finally understood where he kept losing. It wasn't at night, it was the second he woke up. Here's what he noticed once he started paying attention. Every relapse, every bad day, every slide back, it started in the first 60 seconds of being awake, before his feet hit the cold floor, before his brain even booted up. His thumb would reach for the phone on the nightstand, on autopilot, and he'd be scrolling before he was conscious enough to decide anything. That's the whole first chapter, remember? Thumb moving before his feet touched the ground. That was the very first image I gave you of this guy. That reflex was the root of all of it. And here's why that first minute matters so much more than any other minute of the day. Because how you start is how you go. Think about it. You wake up, and before you've had a single thought of your own, you pour the whole world into your head. 100 strangers' opinions, bad news from across the planet, somebody's vacation, somebody's engagement, somebody's flex. That little sink of everybody's winning but me, all of it, mainlined straight into your brain in the first 90 seconds, before you've even stood up. You've been awake 90 seconds, and you've already lost. You've already got the sink in your chest, the comparison running, the low-grade anxiety humming. You haven't even peed yet, and the day's already beat you. Marcus realized he wasn't a guy who had bad days. He was a guy who started his days bad, every single day, in the first minute, and then spent the other 15 hours trying to climb out of a hole he dug before his feet even hit the floor. Now here's the open loop for this chapter, and Marcus wrestled with it for a while, because it's not obvious. He knew he had to change the morning. But how? He'd tried just don't check your phone in the morning before, using willpower, and lost every time. Because you can't win a fight with willpower in the first 90 seconds of being awake, when you're groggy and weak and not even really conscious yet. That's the worst possible time to ask yourself to resist anything. So the question was, how do you win a fight you're always going to be too weak and too asleep to win in the moment? Hold that. Because the answer is the same secret from chapter 5. And once it clicks, it changes everything. Here's the answer. You don't win it in the moment. You win it the night before. Remember, You don't beat this machine with willpower, you beat it with strategy, by changing the battlefield while your willpower's still strong. And the strongest your willpower ever is not at 6 a.m. half asleep. It's at night, when you're awake and clear-headed, and you've just listened to something like this and you actually care. So you make the decision at night, when you're strong, that removes the need to decide in the morning when you're weak. And it's stupid simple. Marcus did one thing. He started charging his phone across the room, in the kitchen, not on the nightstand, not within arm's reach. That's it. That's the whole strategy, and listen to how it works because it's beautiful. Now, when the alarm goes off, the phone's across the room, so he has to get up to turn it off. His feet hit the cold floor, feet first, for the first time in years, feet before thumb, and he's standing, and he's up. And by the time he's walked across the cold apartment to the kitchen to silence it, he's awake. He's vertical. He's a conscious human being making choices. And the reflex, thumb scrolling before feet touch the ground, is just dead. It can't fire. The phone's not there. He removed the possibility instead of trying to resist the temptation. He didn't out-willpower the morning scroll. He made the morning scroll impossible with a decision he made the night before, when willpower was cheap and easy. He moved the fight to the ground he could win on. And then he did one more thing, and this is the part that turned not losing into actually winning the morning. He filled that first empty space with something small and his. Nothing huge, remember. I'm never going to tell you to meditate for an hour or journal 3 pages. You're too tired for that, and so was he. He just did one small thing that was his, before the world got a vote. Some mornings it was standing at the window with a cup of coffee, hot coffee for once, not the cold break room stuff, just looking out at the street waking up. Some mornings it was 3 minutes of stretching on the floor. Some mornings just sitting on the edge of the bed in the quiet, planning one thing he wanted out of the day. The point wasn't what it was. The point was that the first thing in his head every day was now something he chose, instead of something a machine chose for him. He'd taken back the first minute. And when you own the first minute, you own the whole day, because the day flows out of how it starts. Let me connect this back because it's bigger than mornings. That first hour of the day is the ground where you kept losing. Everybody's got one. Some spot where you fall, over and over, same place, same time. For Marcus it was the morning. For you it might be the morning too, or it might be the couch at 6 p.m, or the drive home, or the moment you walk in the door to an empty place. Wherever it is, you don't win it with willpower and grit in the moment. You engineer it. You set it up in advance from a strong moment, so that when the weak moment comes, the win's already built in. You put the phone across the room. You keep the junk food out of the house. You lay your gym clothes out the night before. You make the good thing easy and the bad thing hard ahead of time, so that later, weak, tired, asleep, you win by default. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. Strong people don't rely on being strong in every moment. They know they'll be weak sometimes, so they build a life that catches them when they are. Here's your assignment, and it might be the one that changes your life more than any other in this book. Tonight, not tomorrow, charge your phone across the room, not on the nightstand, across the room, or in another room entirely, so that tomorrow morning your feet hit the floor before your thumb hits the glass. That's it. That's the whole thing. You make one decision tonight while you're awake and you care, and it wins you every single morning from here on out without you having to fight for it groggy at dawn. And then one small thing that's yours before you touch that phone. coffee at the window, 3 stretches, 1 quiet minute deciding what you want out of the day, anything, as long as it's yours and it comes before the world's. Take back your first minute. It's the cheapest, highest payoff thing you'll ever do. Put the phone down, pick your life up, and guard the morning like your whole day depends on it, because it does.
Marcus had the mornings now. Feet first. The world got his day only after he'd already claimed it. But there was still a hole in him. The lonely quiet from Chapter 8 hadn't fully gone away, because taking the fake company out of his life left a real gap, and a real gap needs a real thing to fill it. He couldn't just delete his way to a good life. At some point, he had to build one. And that started with picking up the phone to actually call somebody. Chapter 14, Call the Guy, Don't Text the Feed. Marcus was lonely, and he finally figured out why deleting apps hadn't fixed it. Here's the thing he'd gotten wrong. He thought the phone was the problem, and it was, but taking it away only got him halfway. Because underneath the scrolling, remember from Chapter 8, was loneliness, real loneliness. And you don't cure loneliness by deleting things. You cure it by adding something, a real person, a real voice. And Marcus had spent so many years with fake company in his pocket that he'd let all his real friendships go quiet. Let me paint you where he was. 3 weeks in now, mostly clean, phone across the room at night, feet on the floor in the morning, doing good. But it was a Sunday afternoon, Sunday, the loneliest day, the scaries already creeping, and he was just sitting in his apartment. Fridge humming, rain, again, it's Ohio, it rains a lot. And it was quiet, and this time the quiet wasn't peaceful, and it wasn't the withdrawal itch either. It was just lonely, plain human lonely. He wanted to talk to somebody, a real somebody. And here's what he caught himself doing. His hand went for the phone, not to call anyone, to post, to throw something out into the feed, some story, some update, and wait for the little hearts to trickle in and pretend that was connection. And he stopped, because he saw it clearly now, the whole rotten trade. That's what the feed does. It offers you a fake version of the exact thing you're starving for. You're lonely, it gives you a crowd, but the crowd isn't real, nobody in it knows you, and you get up from it lonelier than before. You want to be seen, it gives you likes, little hearts from people who glanced at you for half a second between other people's posts. You want connection, it gives you contact. And contact is not connection. 100 likes is not one friend. 1,000 followers is not one person who'd pick up at 2 a.m. if you were falling apart. Marcus had traded connection for contact for years and wondered why he was starving at a full table. So he did something that felt weirdly hard, harder than deleting the app, honestly. He scrolled to his buddy Dave's number, an actual old friend, a guy he'd let drift, hadn't really talked to in months, just the occasional like on each other's posts, that hollow thumbs-up version of friendship. And instead of texting, instead of liking something, he pressed call. And then he sat there while it rang, feeling ridiculous, feeling like calling somebody out of the blue on a Sunday was a strange, almost aggressive thing to do now. You feel that too, right? When did calling a friend start to feel like such a big deal? When did we get so used to the little hearts that an actual voice started to feel like too much? Dave picked up. Yo, everything okay? Because that's what people say now when you call. They assume something's wrong. And Marcus said, yeah man, everything's fine. I don't know, wanted to see how you were doing. And here's the open loop.
The thing Marcus was scared of in that little silence right after. What if it's weird? What if we've got nothing to say? What if that friendship's just dead and I'm about to feel even lonelier? Hold that, because there was a real risk in it, and that risk is exactly why most people never make the call. Here's what happened. There was a 2-second awkward pause, and then Dave just started talking about his week, about his job, about some dumb thing his kid did, and Marcus was laughing, real laughing, and then he was talking too, actually talking, about the hours getting cut and the money stress, and he didn't plan to, a little bit about Sarah, about how he was doing better, and Dave said, "Man, I've been worried about you. You kind of went quiet on us." And something in Marcus's chest just cracked open at that. "You went quiet. We noticed. We missed you."
They talked for 45 minutes. 45 minutes. On a Sunday afternoon that would have otherwise been scrolling and loneliness and the scaries. And when he hung up, Marcus felt full, actually full. That fullness the feed had been faking for years and never once delivered. One phone call did what 10,000 scrolls couldn't. Because here's the truth about people, and it's maybe the most hopeful thing in this whole book. Everybody's lonely right now. Everybody. That guy you think has it all together, the friend you drifted from, the person you assume is too busy for you. They're sitting in their own quiet apartment feeling exactly what you're feeling. The whole world's gotten quiet and lonely together. All of us in our separate rooms, staring at our separate glass, starving for the one thing that's free and right there. An actual human voice saying, "I was thinking about you." So when you reach out, when you make the call, send the real message, the human one. You're not bothering anyone. That's the fear, right? That you're bothering them. You're not. You're throwing a rope to somebody who's drowning in the exact same water you are. That awkward, "Why are you calling?" they open with. That's just the surprise. 2 minutes in, they're so grateful you called that they can barely say it. And this is what picking your life up actually means when you get down to it. It was never just about putting the phone down. Putting the phone down is only the first half. The second half, the real half, is what you pick up instead. And the best thing you can pick up, the thing that fills the hole the scrolling left, is people. Real ones. Voices, faces across a table. A friend on the line for 45 minutes on a Sunday. You don't beat a fake connection by having no connection. You beat it with a real one. Here's your assignment this week, and it might scare you a little, which is how you know it's the right one. Call one person, not text, not like their post. Call. Or if calling's too much, send one real message. Not a thumbs up, not a heart, an actual, "Hey, I was thinking about you. How are you really doing?" One human being you've let drift. The friend who went quiet. The family member you keep meaning to call. You know who came to mind just now. Call them. It's gonna feel awkward for exactly 2 seconds. Push through the 2 seconds. Because on the other side of those 2 awkward seconds is the thing you've actually been looking for this whole time, down under all the scrolling, someone who's glad you exist, telling you so in a real voice. Put the phone down, pick your life up. And sometimes picking your life up means picking the phone back up, to do the one thing it was actually built for, to hear another human being say your name. Marcus had his mornings. He had Dave back. And through Dave, slowly, a couple other guys, a Sunday thing starting up, real life filling in around him. And somewhere in there, without him noticing the exact day it happened, something bigger had changed. He wasn't white-knuckling it anymore. He wasn't a guy fighting an addiction.
He'd quietly become somebody else. And the next chapter is about the man he saw when he finally looked in a real mirror instead of a black screen. Chapter 15. The Man in the Reflection. One morning, Marcus caught his reflection, and for a second he didn't recognize the guy. Not in a black phone screen this time, in the actual bathroom mirror, brushing his teeth, ordinary Tuesday. And he stopped, toothbrush in his mouth, and looked at himself the way you sometimes randomly really see yourself. And the guy looking back was different from the guy in the black glass from chapter 1. That guy had been hollow, watching his own house burn through a window. This guy looked awake, present, like somebody was home behind the eyes. And he had this quiet thought standing there, I don't think I'm the same person anymore. Now here's what I want to talk about tonight, because this is the deepest thing in the whole book, and it's the thing that makes the change actually stick instead of being one more phase you snap back from. Somewhere in the last month, without any single dramatic moment, Marcus had stopped fighting the phone. And that's different from beating it. For weeks he'd been a guy resisting an addiction, white-knuckling, deleting, blocking, guarding, doing battle every day. But somewhere in there it had quietly turned into something else. He wasn't resisting being a scroller anymore. He'd just become a person who doesn't scroll. It stopped being a fight he was winning and became simply who he was. Let me explain the difference, because it's everything. There's a guy who's trying not to smoke, and there's a guy who doesn't smoke. Those are two completely different men, even if they're doing the same thing today. The first guy is fighting an urge all day, white-knuckling it, and he's always one bad moment from losing, because deep down he still thinks of himself as a smoker who's holding back. The second guy isn't fighting anything. Somebody offers him a cigarette and he goes, "No thanks, I don't smoke." And there's no struggle in it at all, because it's not a battle, it's just who he is. The urge doesn't even really come for him anymore, because there's nothing there for it to grab. Marcus was becoming the second guy, and that's the only version of this that lasts. Here's how you know the difference in yourself. It's the sentence you use. The white-knuckle guy says, "I can't scroll." Can't. Like there's a wall he's holding himself back from, like he's being deprived, like he'd love to but he's not allowing it. That's exhausting. You can only say, "I can't," for so long before you crack, because "I can't" means you still want to, you're just forbidding yourself. And forbidding yourself is a fight you eventually lose. The changed guy says, "I don't. I don't scroll first thing in the morning. I don't keep that app. I don't check her page anymore." "I don't" isn't a wall you're straining against. It's just a fact about who you are. It's the same as "I don't eat glass" or "I don't rob banks." There's no willpower in it, no straining, because it's not a temptation you're resisting, it's just not something you do. That's you now. The whole journey of this book really is the journey from "I can't" to "I don't." From fighting a thing to no longer being the kind of person who does it. Now here's the open loop, and it's a beautiful one for once, not a scary one. Marcus started noticing he was different in ways that had nothing to do with the phone, and it confused him at first. Why am I standing up straighter? Why did I say no to that extra shift without my stomach dropping? Why am I not scared of the quiet anymore? Why do I feel like a person? The question was, how did fixing one small thing, a phone habit, change so much that seemed unrelated? Hold that, because the answer is the reason any of this ever mattered. Here's the answer. It was never really about the phone. The phone was just where Marcus first learned he could keep a promise to himself. Remember Chapter 2, every broken 5 minutes promise was a vote against himself, and he'd stopped trusting himself, stopped believing he could keep the big promises because he couldn't keep the small one. Well, he'd reversed it. He'd kept the small promise, put the phone down, over and over, through a relapse and back. And every time he kept it, he cast a vote for himself. And those votes added up into something, into a man who trusts himself. And a man who trusts himself is a different man in every room. That's why he stood up straighter. That's why the honest no got easy. That's why the quiet stopped scaring him. Because underneath all of it now was this new bedrock thing. I do what I say I'm gonna do. I've got my own back. Even when I fall, I get up. And a man who knows that about himself walks through the whole world differently. The phone was just the first domino. It knocked over everything. And here's the part that gets me, the quietest, truest part. The real proof that Marcus had changed wasn't the mornings or the deleted apps or the phone calls. It was this. He'd become somebody good when nobody was watching. Think about who he used to be, a guy performing for the feed, posting a sunset just so Sarah might see it, liking photos he hated, living for an audience, being a costume. Everything he did to be seen. And now, he'd stand at the window with his coffee, watching the street wake up, and he wasn't going to post it. It wasn't content. It was just his, a quiet, good moment that belonged to nobody but him, that no one would ever know about, that he wasn't collecting to show anyone. He'd call Dave and not tell a soul. He'd have a good day and not document it. He'd become real. And real is the thing that happens when you stop performing and just live, whether anyone's watching or not. That's the man in the reflection. Not a guy with a better phone habit. A real guy. Somebody home behind the eyes. Here's your assignment this week, and it's more of a mirror than a task. I want you to catch the sentence you use. This week, listen to how you talk to yourself about the thing you're changing. Are you saying, I can't? Or are you starting to say, I don't? And if you catch an I can't, I want you to switch it. Out loud if you have to. Not, I can't scroll right now. I don't do that anymore. That's not who I am. Say it like it's already true, because saying it is part of how it becomes true. You're not lying, you're just getting there a little ahead of schedule. Because you're not trying to resist being the old you forever. That's exhausting, and you'll lose. You're trying to become someone new, so completely that the old thing just isn't yours anymore. You're not a scroller holding back. You're becoming a person who doesn't talk like it, stand like it, and one ordinary morning, brush in your teeth, you'll catch your reflection and barely recognize the guy, because somewhere along the way, you quietly became him. Put the phone down, pick your life up, until one day you look up and realize your hands were already full of a life that's actually yours. Marcus was a different man now. Feet on the floor, head up, home behind the eyes. And there was one more morning I want to tell you about, the last one, the one that brings this whole thing full circle, back to a guy lying in the dark at 2 a.m. with blue light on his face, except everything's different now. Let me take you there. Chapter 16, Feet on the Floor. It's 2 a.m. and Marcus is asleep. Let that land for a second, because that's the whole story right there, in 3 words. 2 in the morning, the exact hour we started, the hour that owned him, the hour of blue light and the humming fridge and the thumb moving on its own, and Marcus is just asleep, peaceful, Phone across the room in the kitchen, dark, silent, charging, not on his face, not in his hand, across the room where it can't reach him. The 2 a.m. that used to be the loneliest hour of his life is now just an hour he sleeps through, like a normal person, like a man at peace. And then the morning comes, and I want to walk you through it slow because it's the exact mirror of chapter 1, and I want you to feel how far he came. The alarm goes across the room, and Marcus opens his eyes, and here's the thing, here's the whole thing. His thumb doesn't move. There's no phone by his hand for it to reach for. That old reflex, thumb scrolling before his eyes are even open. The very first image I gave you of this guy, it's just gone. It fires at nothing. It's a ghost of a habit, twitching at empty air, and even that's fading now. So he does the only thing he can do. He gets up. His feet hit the floor, cold. Same cold floor from chapter 1, that hasn't changed, but this time his feet touch it first, before the glass, before the world, feet first. And he stands up, in the quiet, a whole man, awake, and walks across the apartment to turn off the alarm. And then he does his small thing, coffee at the window, hot coffee in his own kitchen, watching Columbus wake up, the streetlights clicking off, somebody scraping frost off a windshield, the sky going from black to grey to that first thin line of gold at the edge. And he just watches it. His, nobody else's, not content, not a post, just a man and a morning and a cup of coffee, and the first thought in his head is one he chose, not one a machine chose for him. The world gets his day now only after he's already claimed it. That's what winning looks like. It's that quiet, it's that ordinary, it's that huge. Let me tell you where he is now, the whole picture, because I promised you full circle. He still works at the hardware store. Still $17 an hour, though the hours came back, and he's picking up a little side thing on weekends, saving towards something, not sure what yet, but towards something, which is more than he had before. Still the 1-bedroom off Sullivan, still the humming fridge. I'm not going to lie to you and say he deleted an app and became a millionaire, because that's not true, and you'd know it wasn't true. His life didn't get fancier, it got his. Sarah's still blocked, and here's the thing, he doesn't think about her much anymore. The wound closed. It closed because he finally stopped picking at it, took the button off his nightstand, let the door swing shut, and let it heal clean. There's a scar, there's always a scar, but it doesn't bleed anymore, and some days he forgets it's even there. He's got Dave back and a couple other guys, and there's a Sunday thing now, real people, real voices, a full table instead of a fake crowd. The loneliness that was under everything, it's not gone completely. It visits the way it visits everybody, but it doesn't run him anymore, because now when it comes, he doesn't reach for a glowing rectangle. He calls a guy. He picks up his life instead of his phone. And every now and then, I want to be honest with you, because I've been honest with you this whole time. Every now and then, he still slips. A bad day, a weak moment. He'll catch himself scrolling something or reaching for a numb. He's human. The machine's still out there, still smart, still patient, still waiting. But here's what's different. When he slips now, he doesn't spiral. He doesn't hear, "You're a fraud, you'll never change," and believe it. He just gets up. Same day, every time. Because he learned the only lesson that ever mattered. It was never about never falling. It was about how fast you get back on your feet. And Marcus gets up fast now. That's who he is. That's the man in the reflection. Now let me turn to you, because this was never really about Marcus. You knew that. Marcus was just a guy I made up to tell you the truth about yourself. You're lying there right now, probably, late, tired, maybe with the blue light on your face this very second. And everything I described in Marcus, the thumb that moves on its own, the girl who already left, the 6 hours a day, the sink of everybody winning but you, the empty hand, the 2 a.m. reflection in the black glass, you recognized it, all of it, because it's yours too.
And here's what I need you to hear before you sleep tonight, the thing I've been trying to give you this whole time. You are not too far gone. You're not too weak. You're not broken. You're one tired human being who got caught in a trap built by people way more powerful than you, and that is not your fault. But getting out? That part's yours. And it's not as far as it looks. It's one delete, one block, one phone across the room, one call to an old friend, one morning where your feet hit the floor before your thumb hits the glass, one small vote for yourself, and then another, until one ordinary day you catch your reflection and barely know the guy, because somewhere along the way you quietly became him. Marcus started exactly where you are. Same bed, same 2 a.m., same hollow reflection in the same black glass. He wasn't special. He didn't have anything you don't have. He just one night got tired enough of watching his own life burn through a window to finally do one small thing about it, and then another. And that was enough. That's always enough. So here's the last thing I'm gonna ask you to do. Not this week, right now, tonight. Set this down. Set the phone down, put it across the room, and go to sleep. And in the morning, let your feet hit the floor first. That's it. That's the whole beginning. That's the first small vote. Everything else grows out of that one. The world's right there, friend. It's been right there the whole time, on the other side of the glass, patient, waiting for you to lift your head. The sunsets, the old friends, the quiet mornings that belong to nobody but you. A whole life sitting there that's actually yours. Go get it. Put the phone down. Pick your life up.